Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Craig, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we do. Mr. Bowden?
Murray, please proceed.
My name is Murray Bowden. In preparing for today's meeting and reading the critical milestones and issues for the Cortlandt Street Station, it says the demolition of the existing PATH station, north temporary access, and construction of et cetera, previously January 2016, the new date is June 2017. Given the state of information about the way it's transmitted today, somebody has to review that system where information is not transmitted as quickly as it should be. I've already contacted the Port Authority and made them aware of the fact that there needs to be better coordination more quickly than has been done in the past. What's been done in the past is not acceptable anymore. This is not 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, and you're still using some of the same systems, and this is an enormous cultural change. You're changing the culture of way people approach problems. Your department, Holly, does an excellent job of moving forward. Thank you. But how do we translate what your department does to the larger economy? This is all about economics, creating an economic base in New York City that continues to attract world investment, because it is the center of world investment. There is no place in the world like New York City. And we need to continue the leadership that your department has shown and transfer it to various departments here. I've gotten a little of B&T is moving in that direction quickly. Metro North is not. How do we change the culture of various things? And that's what my discussion is tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Can I have approval of the minutes of last month's meeting? Second. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Committee work plan, Mr. Stewart?
There are no changes to the work plan, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Before we get started with the agenda, I'd like to make a few comments. There's considerable discussion today at the Transit Authority Committee meeting about the informational reports, if you call them that, in the news media regarding the conditions that were found at 7 West Hudson Yards 34th Street Station. I'm going to direct the independent engineer to do a review of that project. As you know, that project did not come under the purview of the independent engineer until very late in the process. So I'll ask them to do an independent review of the issues related to the construction, the design, and the oversight of that construction all the way leading up until where we find ourselves today, and I'll report back. I'll ask them to do that expeditiously so we can report back to the board. The primary concern I have is not necessarily who shot John or who did what to whom, as much as what did we know and what actions did we take with respect to trying to correct the conditions that are existing there, and so that we can find ourselves in a position next time that we don't have the same outcome. So that's the action that we're going to be taking. I'll ask the independent engineer to do that review, and Craig Stewart will work out those details to have that done as expeditiously as possible. Now move into the progress report on 2nd Avenue Subway. Mr. Anil Parikh.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The project is on schedule to start the revenue service in December 2016. Stations and systems contractors are working extended hours during the weekdays and on weekends since January 4th, 2016. In addition, New York City Transit has provided additional dedicated resources to perform the free final inspections and code compliance inspections. The project is on budget. The project highlights: Con Ed has energized the facility power at 96th Street Station. At 63rd Street Station, the contractor is performing testing and commissioning work for elevator, escalator, HVAC systems, and emergency tunnel ventilation fans. At 72nd Street Station, 86th Street Station, and 96th Street Station, the contractors are performing installation of the facility power, elevators, escalators, HVAC systems, and architectural work. Systems contractor is performing installation of the track work, signal work, traction power work, and communication work. 90-day look ahead. To complete level 3 and 4 testing for 63rd Street Station, energize the facility power at 72nd Street and 86th Street stations, complete installation of tunnel ventilation fans at 96th Street Station, and complete the track work installation. Next slide, please. This cost and schedule performance, the actual dollar spent is less than 2009 planned expenditure, and this is basically due to contractors are falling behind the payment for construction expenditure than what was planned in 2009. The contractor is catching up on the expenditure through this acceleration and the remaining work. The estimated completion is $4.4 billion. Next slide, please. The current project contingency is $56 million, which is $81 million less than the last reported. The reduction in contingency is due to $66 million in acceleration costs for 3 station finished contracts and the systems contract, and $15 million for approved and pending negotiated additional work orders for the station and systems contract. Next slide, please. Critical milestone and issues for 63rd Street Station. The elevators and escalator installation is scheduled to be completed by end of March. Fire life safety systems installation is scheduled to be completed by end of March. And level 3 and 4 testing for escalators, elevators, and fire life safety is scheduled to be completed by April 30th.
Just to clarify, this is the Lexington 63rd Street Station.
Lexington 63rd.
Yes, that's really
I am
what it
sorry.
should say.
Yes, sorry. Lexington. Yes, you're right. 72nd Street Station, milestones and critical issues. The permanent power energization is scheduled for April 15, 2016. All 7 elevators will be installed by September 2016, and escalators will be installed by September 1st, except escalators at entrance 1, which are located at 301 and East 69th Street. That entrance 1 escalators are scheduled to be installed by October 28, 2016. Tunnel ventilation fans and HVAC system installation is scheduled to be completed by end of May 2016. And level 3 and 4 testing for escalators except entrance 1, escalators, elevators, tunnel vent fans, HVAC, and fire life systems, fire life safety is scheduled to be completed by end of August 2016. Testing for entrance 1 escalators will be completed by mid-November 2016. Next slide, please. 86th Street Station, permanent power is scheduled to be energized by April 30th, 2016 to support the testing and commissioning activities. All 13 escalators installation is scheduled to be completed by June 1st, 2016. Ancillary 1 and Ancillary 2 structures for the electrical and mechanical system is scheduled to be completed by April 30th, 2016. And level 3 and 4 testing for escalators, elevators, tunnel vent fans, and fire life safety is scheduled to be completed by August 2016. Next slide, please. 96th Street Station, HVAC installation is scheduled to be completed by end of May 2016, and tunnel and station smoke management system is scheduled to be installed by June 2016. 9 escalator installation is scheduled to be completed by May 2016, and elevator installation is scheduled to be completed by July 2016. There are 2 elevators at this station. Fire life safety installation is scheduled to be completed by June 2016. Level 3 and 4 testing for escalators, elevators, tunnel vent fans, and fire life safety is expected to be completed by August 2016. Next slide, please. Systems. Systems contractor is working at all 3 stations at the same time to complete the installation of the communication systems work by end of August 2016. The police radio equipments, there is only a portion of the equipment that is going to be delivered by mid-September. Rest of the installation is continuing, and required testing is scheduled to be completed by mid-October. Traction power installation is scheduled to be completed by July 2016. Track work is scheduled to be completed by May 15, 2016, and signal work is scheduled to be completed through level 3 and 4 testing by July 2016. This concludes my report.
If you would hold your comments until we hear from the independent engineer, Ken Haggis, if you could please give your report, please.
Yes, good afternoon. In our review of the project for the committee, let me start with the schedule. The project has issued a new summary schedule incorporating the accelerated installation, testing, and commissioning activities of each contract. The schedule is designed to support a December 2016 revenue service date. In our preliminary review of the schedule, we have a couple items of concern. The testing period for the major station equipment systems has been compressed to 3 or 4 months as compared to 10 months as originally anticipated in the contracts. The testing of all 3 new stations is now concurrent, which maximizes the demand on the construction management and on the transit staff supporting that. There seems to be a limited allowance for failures and retesting activities. And as the project has noted, the escalator and elevator completions at 72nd Street are close to impacting revenue service date. Turning to the budget, the project's on budget, has a cost contingency of $56 million in line with the remaining work. Our analysis indicates that the average monthly project construction expenditures have increased to $39 million a month over the last 3 months. Further increases to an average of 47 are needed to support the accelerated schedule to complete in December. Turning to the schedule risk, of the top 5 risks that were identified in our December report to the committee, we feel that 2 have yet to be effectively mitigated. Late design changes have continued, and the backlog of change orders has not been significantly reduced. The testing of the fire alarm system is being complicated now by the delay and completion of the entrances at 72nd Street. In addition, the IEC believes that due to the compressed testing program now, that elevates the risk of delay to contractor, subcontractor coordination issues, and of course the short time available to recycle any test failures. We have one recommendation for the project, that they set a clear date for finishing the final testing and commissioning at the Lexington 63rd Street station. That be established with the intent of finishing the work there before the testing program for the 3 new stations commences in earnest in the beginning of June. That's my report.
Any comments or questions of either Anil or Kent? Hearing none, we'll move on to Eastside Access. Bill Goodrich.
Good afternoon. Eastside Access remains on schedule for December 2022 revenue service date. Remains within the established budget of $10.178 billion. As far as progress, it's shown here, summarized here. I'll highlight a few items. We completed all the work necessary for substantial completion on the CM14A contract. That's the concourse and facilities early fit-out work, with the exception of the cutover of 2 electrical feeders which remain to be energized by Con Edison. Both Yonkers and the electrical subcontractor Verdi Electric have contract testing they need to complete once those feeders are energized. On CM005, we expect to achieve substantial completion by the end of March. There is some underground concrete work that's remaining to be complete, and that'll enable the contractor to get to substantial completion. On moving over to Herald, CH-53 achieved substantial completion on February 29th. So that means that both Herald Structures contracts, parts 1 and 2, are now substantially complete. As far as CM007, the terminal station cavern and track contract, we anticipate issuing a notice of award by the end of this month. We're in the process of finalizing contract language with Tudor Perini Corporation, which is specific to this award. As far as the 90-day look-ahead, we're looking to advertise the midday storage yard facility, CQ33, and advertise another Herald contract, the Tunnel A approach, which is CH61A. And we're also looking to start the mining of the westbound bypass tunnel, CH57A, which I'll talk about a little bit later in my report. Slide 2. As far as overall cost and schedule performance, as far as the total project is about 97.5% of plan, and for third-party construction, we're about 95.9% of plan. There's about a $160 million difference between third-party construction or on third-party construction. 120 million of that 160 is associated with two contracts. About 100 million with our project-wide systems contract, and the other 20 million is associated with the Manhattan North Structures contract. We're working with both of those contractors and with the CM teams to recover on that lack of progress. As far as cost and schedule contingency, the project schedule contingency remains at 22 months. However, there are continuing scheduling delays in Herald, specifically the cutover of the remaining CIL signal huts, which are reducing the gap between the Herald schedule and the Manhattan Systems schedule. As far as cost contingency, we have a $47 million decrease in project cost contingency since the last report. That's primarily being driven by pending contract modifications on 3 contracts. CM006, about $22 million, CQ32, about $9 million, and CS179, $9.5 million. The first critical issue has a new status. This has been updated to a status of green since the last report, and this is milestone 2, completion of lower level tunnels in the Manhattan North Structures contract. Previously was required to be complete by February 2016. The date needed currently is June of 2016. The contractor has increased the number of concurrent activities and employed alternate means and methods to recover on schedule. However, we have acknowledged the delays to milestone 2 in our overall program, and we've modified the milestone date in this contract to June, and the access date for the follow-on, which is CM007, that access date will be August 2016. Next issue is the design completion and integrated systems testing plan and schedule for the Package 1 facility system, CS179. The project continues to meet with the contractor to discuss schedule risks and the IST schedule. We're working with the contractor in sequencing the various system designs to reduce the pressure on the schedule. In addition, what should be noted is we've finalized negotiations with the contractor that revises the substantial completion from November 2019 to a new date of July 2020. We're also working closely with Long Island Railroad to expedite the approval of various system design elements. The next item here is the procurement of the Terminal Station Cavern and Track Contract, CMO 07. This contract, as you recall, was approved by the board in January to be awarded. We expect to issue the notice of the award by the end of this month, when remaining contract-specific language is agreed to between Tutor Perini and Capital Construction. During our negotiations, schedules for both 007 and the systems contract, CS 179, which is the follow-on contract, were modified to mitigate the impact of this delayed award. We are anticipating awarding this in February. Next critical issue is the need for Amtrak support for Herald Structures Part 3. This is the westbound bypass contract. As of February 22nd, the excavation for the tunnel launch pit has commenced. The shield for the actual mining operation will be delivered and assembled for a forecasted start of mining in early May. Overall, the current forecast contract completion date is April 2017. This represents about 15 months of delay from the original contract date, and may have impact costs in excess of $9 million. There is also contractor concurrent delay, which is being negotiated. We continue to coordinate with the contractor and with Amtrak to modify the planned work and acquire required outages, and while fully utilizing all available resources that Amtrak does make available to the project. This issue here is the Amtrak resources required overall for all of the Herald interlocking work. The level of Amtrak ET support, electric traction support, and weekend resources continues to be below what is needed to maintain schedule or to recover schedule in Herald. The gap between the Herald completion to support revenue service and the Manhattan system schedule continues to narrow. Without additional resources or correction of this issue, we do expect Herald interlocking will likely become the project critical path. The project is working with Amtrak to secure additional labor clearances for our contractors to perform some of their force account work, therein reducing the amount of work to be performed by Amtrak resources. This item here is a new issue being presented for the first time. This is the cutover of the H5, H6, and L30 CIL signal huts in Herald interlocking. They're currently scheduled for the second half of 2017. Based on the lessons learned from the single cutover of previous CILs, this one has been rescheduled to be in the second half of 2017. The H3 CIL, as you may recall from November last year, our lesson learned there was it underscored the necessity of completing a whole series of pre-cutover testing and tasks to ensure an incident-free cutover. The next series will be 3 CIL huts at the same time, which is much more complex than the initial 3 that we did individually. Requires a larger number of resources from Long Island Railroad, the project's designer, and Ansaldo, who is the software designer. In addition to this increased workload, these same entities are also working on a number of other non-CIL related tasks on the project. The lack of qualified signal personnel in the industry in general is a significant contributing factor as to why we just can't add additional resources to accelerate the schedule. For this cutover, just to give you an idea, we're looking at a total of 8 weekends. 6 would be pre-cutover testing weekends, and then the actual cutover itself can't even be done in 1 weekend. It'll actually be spread out over 2 weekends. So it's a pretty major operation for the project. And that concludes my report.
Phil Stumvell from the independent engineer will give the IEC report.
Good afternoon. The IC notes the following on budget and schedule. The East Side Access budget remains at $10.178 billion and has a contingency of $648 million. This is a decrease of $47 million compared to the CPOC in December of 2015 due to contract modifications. An increase in the owner-controlled insurance program, OSIP, could reduce this contingency further. The East Side Access revenue service date remains in December of 2022. This includes 22 months of unallocated contingency. Harold interlocking work is off the project critical path by 5 months. This is an increase of 4 months since last reported in December and is due to the extension of Manhattan and systems work. The IC notes the following for the work in Manhattan. Contract CM05, Manhattan South structures. The substantial completion date is delayed by 2 months. The access date for the follow-on contract CM07 is being revised. For contract CM06, Manhattan North structures, Milestone 2, which allows access to the lower level tunnels for follow-on contract CM07, was missed. Planned access for CM07 is expected in August 2016. Contract CM014B, the GCT concourse and facilities fit-out, Milestone 1, which is the completion of the train management center and communication rooms, is pushed out by 2 months. This delays access for the systems contract CS179 and requires a contract modification. Contract CM07, the GCT caverns and track. The notice to proceed date has slipped by 2 months and is expected now, as the project stated, by the end of March 2016. As a result, substantial completion was also pushed out by 4 months. We also note the following for the Facilities Systems Package 1 CS179 schedule. This time, interim system design milestones are not being met. Design delays have impacted the schedule and have pushed out the completion of installation and local testing. An integrated systems testing, an IST framework, is required to demonstrate the feasibility of overlap between local testing and IST. These schedule issues need to be assessed and the remaining risk to IST evaluated to measure impact to the revised substantial completion date. As for Harold interlocking, the IC notes that delays to the remaining signal cut hutovers are pushing out Harold infrastructure improvements and civil structural work required for revenue service. In addition, inconsistent Amtrak support combined with low work productivity, specifically at Contract 57A, the westbound bypass, could put Harold on the project critical path. And finally, the IEC has a concern that in the absence of a current integrated project schedule, the IPS, this absence hampers demonstrating progress as well as the complete review of any potential changes. The IEC recommends, as we did last December, that the IPS needs to be revised to include accepted resource-loaded contractor schedules to show new completion dates for Manhattan Systems and Harold work. This will allow not only the project team, but the IEC to maintain stringent project controls and accurately monitor progress. This concludes the IEC's evaluation. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Because I have one. Go ahead.
The CIL cutovers, which would be several weekends, what would be the impact on service during those times? Regular Long Island Railroad service?
There'll be regular, I'll say pretty much regular weekend service. There may be some curtailing of some train service, but there will be train service through the interlocking on those weekends.
And will that affect Amtrak service through the area as well, or not?
I'm not sure if it will affect Amtrak or not. As we get closer, if we do have those kind of impacts, we'll share those with everyone.
When you're doing a signal cutover, you're normally checking each individual route. You're making sure all lead protections are in place for those routes. So as you're doing those tests, you have limited functionality of the interlocking. That's probably why it's spread over 2 weekends, but that is the most complicated interlocking in the East Coast. I guess the question I have is, do you agree with the IEC recommendation regarding the resource-loaded contractor schedule for 079? Because it's been a while that they've been asking for this, and we need to reach a point where they get the schedule. It's been months that we've been waiting for this.
Well, we actually have the resource-loaded schedule for 179 in hand. They're in the process of cutting it into our overall IPS. The other thing is, with the changes we're making in the milestones for the Manhattan North Structures contract, as well as the delayed award of 007 and the changes talked about here on 007, that also affects some of the access dates in 179. So we have at least 3 contracts, with that all have interfaces that have changes in access dates and milestones. So we're gathering all that information, and we're expediting getting into the IPS. I would expect, over the next couple months, we should be able to get all of that reflected in the schedule.
Because I think what's frustrating is we can't measure performance if we don't have that schedule. So, okay, thanks.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Farrar.
With respect to the observation about Amtrak's sporadic cooperation by the IEC, the observation by the IEC, on this, we seeing any prospect of that improving anytime soon?
Well, I think we have regular communication with Amtrak, and they understand our needs, and they are providing the amount of support and resources they can provide. It's really not at a sufficient level for what we need. They have other projects in the corridor they're supporting. I don't anticipate it's going to change significantly, at least in the short term, and we continue to compete with other projects for resources, and I don't see that changing either.
So if they don't change their resource allocation or their attention to certain aspects of this project, that could negatively impact our completion date and a great many other things?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
This is probably the highest level focus issue over a period of months that the team has had. Bill didn't state it, but the other 2 conflicting projects is the Penn Station work for Moynihan, as well as whenever we get to the point of, we're a long ways away from it, doing any work at Harold related to Penn Access for Metro North. But those 2 projects alone are competing for resources that are in limited supply. But your postulate is right. If it doesn't get addressed, then this project will suffer. No further comments. We'll now go to Cortlandt Street, Uday Durg.
Good afternoon. In terms of the project overview, the project is tracking substantial completion in August 2018. The current budget is $158.4 million, which excludes the risk reserve. In terms of the progress, 80% of the demolition of the southbound platform and the northbound platform slabs and manholes has been completed. We also completed 80% of the platform edge concrete for both the north and southbound platforms. We also demolished 50% of the platform walls and fan plants. We also relocated 50% of the utilities under the platform edge, the hydraulic lines as well as the fire standpipes. We also completed the design for the VC Street entrances, and we issued it to the contractor. In terms of 90-day look ahead, we will complete 100% of the demolition of the southbound and the northbound platform slabs and manholes. We will also complete 100% of the placement of the platform edge concrete, install platform slabs, construct duct banks, manholes, and walls. We will also finalize the design of the communications, electrical, and architectural changes. We will also complete 100% relocating of all the central line track utilities, and we will also complete demolition of all the central line columns and install permanent signal cable troughs. In terms of cost and schedule performance, in terms of the cost, we are tracking a little below our planned construction dollars, and that's because we lost a few GOs in the last few months, which we have received the GOs going forward, and we should be able to get everything done by June of 2016. In terms of cost and schedule contingency status, the project is still tracking 181 days, which is 6 months of the scheduled contingency. In terms of the cost, the current contingency is reduced by $0.4 million to $4.8 million. We also have $10.9 million of the project budget for known anticipated changes. We are also tracking an unmitigated risk reserve of $16.9 million, which is not included in the current budget. In terms of the critical milestones and issues, the demolition of the existing path, station north temporary access, and construct the west bathtub foundation with the Port Authority for installing the VC entrance continues to be a matter of concern in terms of completing the project. The Port Authority recently indicated that access to construct the VC entrance will be available in June of 2017. If full access, including installation of the foundation, is not provided by the Port Authority by June 2017, the contract completion could be delayed. Mitigation. Once we receive the access in June 2017, we will accelerate the project to complete the stair and elevator by February 2018. The next critical is the completion of the design. This issue has been completed, no more impact to the project schedule. The next is the right-of-way work. Contractual milestone requires all right-of-way work to be completed by June 2016 due to general orders scheduling conflicts with other high-priority projects. Delay in completing right-of-way work by June 2016 will impact the completion of the project. NYCT has committed to provide all necessary GOs through June 2016 in order to accomplish the right-of-way work by June 2016. Additionally, piggyback opportunities do exist in October 2016 if needed. The project will continue to closely monitor as we go forward. This concludes my report.
Patrick Askew will give the independent engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. As far as schedule review, the IEC concurs that the following milestone associated with the completing of the VC Street entrance must be achieved in order to meet the current project completion date of August 2018. The Port Authority must turn over the path north temporary access space by June 2017 so the contractor can start his work. As far as track work, the track work has been progressing well and is 100% complete. Moving on to the budget. The IEC notes that the current budget is $158.4 million. with a project contingency of $4.8 million, which is approximately 5% of the remaining construction budget. The IC also notes that there are a number of outstanding, unnegotiated change orders that could reduce the contingency. The IC has concerns and issues. Requirements for the station opening. In the IAC's opinion, the lack of a formal commitment from the Port Authority with regard to the timely removal of the path north temporary access continues to present a risk to the MTA CC building the VC Street entrance within the August 2018 project completion date. Budget and contingency. In the IAC's opinion, the current budgeted contingency of $4.8 million is not an adequate amount to support the remaining construction budget with the project's current risk profile. As far as change orders, the IAC is concerned that the changes to the communication, electrical upgrades, and station finishes could pose a risk to the project's substantial completion date. That concludes my report. Thank you.
I've got a question. The lack of a commitment from the Port Authority on the removal of the temporary access, what's holding that up?
Actually, if I may, I will answer that. I'm meeting with the port, with Steve Plate and others, and we expect to have a written agreement probably sometime within the next 30 to 45 days.
Are they going to live to that date?
According to the verbal commitment, the answer is yes. Until I see it in writing, the answer is still out there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Seem to have very interesting relations at the moment with Amtrak and the Port Authority on our projects. They seem both to be holding up what we would consider to be progress. And, you know, and that's the unfortunate thing is we would hope that they would be more amenable to the needs of our riders. That's all we can say. We would hope that that would happen. Otherwise, both of these dates are not going to happen.
I'm going to actually just refer to the Cortlandt Street that they do have to remove the temporary entrance to path, and according to my discussion with them, they're about to do that. Yet, until I see it in writing, I will not necessarily put any, I will not rely on just the verbal thing. So we are working with them, I'm working with them directly to get it done.
Okay.
Any other comments from any of the board members? That concludes the presentations. Capital program status, Craig Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commitments and completion performance highlights through February start on page 51. Commitments in 2016, agencies plan to commit a total of $6.6 billion, including 41 major commitments that we will track throughout the year. To date, the MTA is reporting on 7 major commitments. 5 were committed on time or early, and 2 have slipped from February to March due to finalizing approvals and budget changes. They are East Side Access Cavern that you heard Bill Goodrich speak about earlier, expected to be awarded at the end of this month, and New York City Transit's PS Land, 188 stations, also expected to be awarded this month. These 2 slips largely explain the MTA's overall $880 million year-to-date shortfall. By year-end, the MTA forecast meeting its annual commitment goal of $6.6 billion. In completions, in 2016, agencies plan a total of $4.6 billion in completions, including 43 completions that we are tracking throughout the year. To date, the MTA has completed 2 major projects on time. 1 completion, East Side Access Manhattan South structures, has been delayed from February to March. Agencies completed $232 million versus $346 million year-to-date goal. By year-end, the MTA forecast meeting its annual completion goal of $4.6 million. Traffic light report. Please refer to traffic light reports for the core program as well as the Sandy projects, beginning on page 59 and 101 respectively. Quarterly capital change order report. For information only, it starts on page 118. It covers the change orders for the 4th quarter of 2015. Thank you. Any questions?
Any comments or questions?
This came up at Long Island this morning. There was a question asked, and Pat answered it regarding centralized train control, the entire issue for Long Island. And obviously, in the report, the current substantial completion date of August 2017 is probably not going to happen, based upon the fact that it is being redesigned. It says here the IEC is agreeing with the material, but could we have a more robust presentation on that issue at some point, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sure, certainly we could. So we'll take a look at it, we'll ask them to do it, and we'll give you a date at which we would do that. It's a
Okay.
very important project, I'm glad you asked for it.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further business, I have a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye.